Our city council meeting of May 4th, 2015, 7:31. We'll call the meeting to order. Please stand and say the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All individuals are asked to either silence or turn off all cell phones, pages, or other electronic devices that may disrupt the meeting. Approval of the agenda. Approve the agenda as posted in accordance with the open meeting law, and hereon place all agenda items on the table for discussion. What is the wish of the council?
So moved.
I'll second.
Got a motion by Mayor Zilka and a second by Councilman Holdrian to approve the agenda. Any discussion? Not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Approval of the minutes. Copy of the minutes for the special work session meeting of April 20th, 2015. The regular meeting of April 20th, 2015 are enclosed. What's the wish of the council?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Got a motion by Mayor Zilka, second by Councilman Knopfler. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, we just had the one correction on the work session on public forum A, on number 2 there, reworded to say her belief that city funds should not be spent on sister city activities.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Not, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Approval of the bills. Mr. Gushik?
Turn to page 1, please. Page 2. Page 3.
I have a question on number 3. Beverage cart lease, is that monthly, seasonal, and how long do we have that cart?
It's a seasonal lease, and at the end of the lease, we'll own it.
Okay,
It was a donation from Burmix, I
that's good
believe.
enough.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Page 4. Final page 5. I make a motion to approve the bills. Checks number 90,697 through 90,774 for $227,590.09.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Gushik, second by Alderman Hurkak to approve the bills. Any discussion? Not, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Awards, donations, presentations, proclamations. Award, Minnesota Department of Health, Source Water Protection Grant. Rick?
Yeah, as I mentioned in your work session, the Department of Health granted the city $10,000 wildlife protection, and so we are looking at approving that, as well as we are receiving an award from the Department of Health for our efforts on wildlife protection. So we are going down to the Capitol on May 6th to accept that award for the wildlife protection efforts that we've made.
So we need a motion or just?
Motion.
Just information.
Yes.
To accept the
Right.
I'll make a motion to accept.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Gushik, second by Alderman Hurkak. Any discussion?
Yes, that includes the attendance.
Yes, we would. There's 3 of us that would be looking at attending, myself, Mayor Zoka, and Dwight Hyden.
Any other discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Presentation to Camp Ripley 2015 training schedule, economic impact and environmental briefing. Colonel?
Well, good evening, Mr. President, and council members, and mayor. It's always a pleasure to come back and brief the city of Little Falls on what we're doing at Camp Ripley. Go ahead, Neil, next slide. Obviously, we start out with the way we do every year with our mission, and our mission, simply put, for us is really three things for me, the triple bottom line. We're a federal mission, and that's what we're currently doing all the time. We just received our aviation brigade back from theater. We have 2 units that are getting ready to go back to theater right now. So we continue to do the mobilization mission as required by the federal government. So a lot of that in our federal mission as we get into the season now, and as I go through the months of what we'll be training on, is all really structured around our federal mission. But the second part of that mission, obviously, is our state mission. And the state mission is ongoing. If you were around Camp Ripley last weekend, you probably saw a lot of helicopters with buckets on. We're obviously well into the fire training right now in fire seasons, and we've already been state activated once to go up north with our helicopters and fight fire. And most recently, we had soldiers on active duty last week out in response to the H5N5, usually doing some water operations out in the Wilmer area. So we are out and doing our state mission on a daily basis, and again, a lot of the training we do at Camp Ripley is in response to the governor's needs in protecting the property and citizenry of the state of Minnesota. So we do that mission as well at Camp Ripley, and we're working that all the time. And then my third mission, obviously, and one of my most important, is our state mission, our community mission. The community mission is probably one of the most important things I do, getting out and doing what I'm doing right now. Explaining to the residents around Camp Ripley and our neighbors around Camp Ripley what it is we're doing and why we're doing it. So I spend a lot of time in that community mission. If there are things we can do in and within the community, I will be involved in day caring on Wednesdays. So we're constantly in and about the community, and we hope that we're doing it enough to support our community in and around the area with all the personnel that live and work at Camp Ripley. Next slide. Our economic impact, this will give you a look at our economic impact over the last 4 years. Again, a number of numbers that I look at personally to see how we're doing out at Camp Ripley. One of them I look at a lot is local contracts. You'll see in 2014 that number was just shy of 2 million. I like that number to be around 3 million. That's money that's going to local contractors working on Camp Ripley, whether that be services or whether that be supplies, things like that. And that's Minnesota contractors working out at Camp Ripley. So that number is going to be up this year substantially. As you well know, we're going to have a very, very busy season, which I'll talk about here in a little bit. Probably one of the biggest years we've had probably in the last 5. We're going to have a number of large units coming through Camp Ripley, and it's already started. So we are well into the process of bringing those folks on. Well over 500 contractors, which are already moving into the Little Falls area. I'm sure you may have noticed. They're in and about the communities with boatloads of white pickups and running around and getting everything they need prepared for our summer season. Another thing I watch, obviously, is those things that we buy directly from the community, like food. You know, believe it or not, our soldiers eat a lot. They eat a lot. And they're out there all the time, and obviously the vendors in and around Camp Ripley, that will be an ongoing thing that I look at. Now, our numbers in construction are going to reduce. We're obviously in budget sequestration at the federal level. We've done a very, very good job over the last 12 to 15 years. The commanders prior to me did very excellent work in figuring out what we needed to position ourselves for the future. So that construction's really happened over the last 10 to 15 years. And now we're going to slow down and go into a little bit more of what I would call sustain and maintenance of what we have as we go into tighter budget years at the federal level. Remember, we're state-owned, but we're 99% federally supported. So that's where that money comes from. Next slide. So here's a look at our training year in May. Now currently, I just came from Camp Ripley where we have all the veterans in that are going to be doing turkey hunting over the next 2 days. So even though we're busy, we still have time to make those activities in the spring happen as well. So the DAV is out there right now and the veterans are going to go out. But these are some of the units that are going to start coming in actually next week. Their equipment's starting to arrive right now. Thing you need to notice about here is obviously these are the first of our noisemakers. So the 125 Field Artillery is an artillery unit out of southern Minnesota, and they'll be starting to shoot artillery. So you can expect to hear a lot of impacts in the southern part and the northern part of Camp Ripley over the next couple of weeks now, as we get towards middle to the end of May. Along with that, we have an engineer battalion They do what's called ground impact concussion. They do a lot of breaching operations, so they're using explosives on the ground. So 2 different kinds of impacts that you'll hear if you're familiar with the way we make a little bit of noise at Camp Ripley. But towards the end of the month, you can expect us to be pretty loud. Also, on the 15th to the 17th of May, I'll add to the mix of about 6,000 soldiers. I'll add about 5,000 scouts and scout leaders as we do the Ripley Rendezvous, and I think that number is about 3,500 to 4,000 right now coming in, along with the soldiers to do their event that they're going to have at Camp Ripley, and we're pretty excited about that as well. So that will be a busy weekend, the 15th to 17th of May for Camp Ripley. Be a lot of young scouts around, as well as a lot of units training. Next slide. In June, again, we'll go into what's called our Exportable Combat Training Centers. These are full readiness exercises. Our 1st Brigade Combat Team, which is an armor unit, Armor and Bradley unit, it's a heavy mechanized unit. They are getting ready for their full-up rotation to the National Training Center in Fort Irwin, California next year. That's called their ready year. They have to be ready to deploy worldwide by next year. So they're doing that readiness exercise here this year to prepare for next year. So one of the things we're already planning when we move this brigade out to Fort Irwin next year is we'll have over 400 train cars next year in the month of May loading out of Camp Ripley, and I'm already planning those events right now. So all of our heavy equipment will be shipped out to Fort Irwin to support that exercise. So this unit is coming in June, and it's going to be staggered then throughout the month of June, July, and August. Along with this comes a lot of other units. There'll be an aviation battalion out of Nebraska. The 67th Battlefield Surveillance Brigade is another brigade out of Nebraska that's going to be coming in to do its readiness exercise at Camp Ripley. Now you'll see a lot of helicopters in June in and around the boundaries of Camp Ripley. A lot of Chinooks, a lot of Black Hawk helicopters moving up and down the 371 corridor. So you can expect to see that in the month of June. Next slide, please. In July, we're going to continue on with the same exercises. We're going to bring in a armor battalion out of Ohio. That battalion is a tank unit. That's a heavy armor unit, and we'll be on the ranges all summer long. So something that's a little different this year than the past couple of years, we're going to be in a pretty steady state of shooting all this year as we get back into our combat skills. And so as we get ready for these large exercises for our combat power skills, you can see these large units will be on the range the entire time. Now also in July, we're going to add the 196th Maneuver Enhancement Brigade. They're a large element out of South Dakota. They're bridgers. So in the month of July, towards the middle to the end of July, we're going to start bridging the Mississippi. And so we'll have bridging boats and bridging units on the Mississippi River. Now we work very closely with the Corps of Engineers and everybody. We don't breach the river and then hold it for a long period of time, and we do a lot of safety work. And this year, I'm a little concerned because we don't have enough water. So I'm hoping we get a little bit more rain, obviously, as many of the local residents do, because it's very dry and the river's very low, and we'll need a little bit more river flow to make that exercise work the best of its ability. But with that said, we also use our lakes on Camp Ripley to do that bridging operations as well. So we'll be doing that throughout the month of July. Next slide. In August, again, the 2nd of our large artillery units comes in from Montevideo, Minnesota. So they'll mostly be up north. They'll be up north in what we call the Leech ranges, but they will be doing some of their shooting down south as well as the one of the 145 Combined Arms Battalion out of Ohio, tanks and Bradleys. So again, they're going to be on the range all through the month of August. So what you're seeing is our training year is expanding. It's really going to 7 to 9 months where it used to be, just 3 months. Well, that doesn't exist anymore in our system. We have to be ready to deploy at all times, as you very well know, and we still have units coming in and out constantly through this time period. Next slide. In September, we'll slow down just a little bit, but we head into our fall season. That's when a lot of my law enforcement training that's currently going on right now will return to Camp Ripley in that fall and September area, and we do all of our fall certifications, as well as our annual snowplow training. Everybody around the Little Falls area is familiar with that now. We've been doing that for quite some time, and we bring all the snowplow drivers in from the state, and they go through a full training program at Camp Ripley on snowplow training. Now, we have our biennial open house this year on 20 September. We'd like to invite the community out this year. We're having a very big event again this year. I like to theme that event. My staff's been working on it for quite some time already. This year what we're going to do is we're going to thank all of the first responders and emergency service providers and law enforcement that have done so much for us over the last 10 to 15 years. We often forget that they're out there protecting our property and our citizenry every day. for all of the employees. They've kept our families safe while we're deployed, and we just like to thank them at Camp Ripley this year. So that's kind of the theme of my event this year, is that we're really going to just thank all of those local providers that do so much for us. So I hope you can all come out. You're certainly welcome on that day. We'll have all kinds of activities, static displays as well, showing what we do at Camp Ripley, and hopefully culminating in a very, very busy, fun summer. Next slide. In October, my favorite month of the year, I'm not going to lie, we get back out in the field. We do what we love to do as Minnesotans, and we'll get out there and we'll start allowing some more hunting out at Camp Ripley. Obviously, our large archery hunts will be during this time period, our disabled veterans hunts. And then again, an event for us at Camp Ripley is our Court of Honor, which happens in October. And this is where we thank all of those members of the Minnesota National Guard over their careers for what they've done, and we memorialize them into our museum. So we certainly, if you're around and available on the 4th of October, it's a great event. Obviously, it thanks a lot of great patriots for all they've done for their careers in and around Camp Ripley and for the Minnesota National Guard. Next slide. A couple of new facilities we have at Camp Ripley. One that I'm very excited about that just opened, the Medical Simulation Training Center. We call it the Mystic. We are very fortunate to be one of the only guard sites in the United States to receive a full medical simulations training center. And what this thing does is it trains all of our medics for what we call the critical hour. It trains them in full trauma injury. And it is in full, all the mannequins and medics is all in a battlefield simulated environment. It's all simulated. These mannequins breathe, they bleed, they have every symptom that a live body does. And it puts the medical service providers in the position, in the opportunity to save lives. For us, our trauma injuries are our biggest threat. And so being able to train these at Camp Ripley year round has been a very, very good thing for us. And we're very excited about this. And we're also going to offer this then to our local service providers as well. We intend to put this in the ramp of services we have for our emergency service providers to come out and learn with us for those trauma type injuries. Next slide. Our education center, for those of you that were out, that facility opened last week full time. This has been a great addition to Camp Ripley. We are still in the testing phase of all the systems there, but we do have our Regional Training Institute has already moved in there, so we have soldiers in class. We have civilian classes from the state agencies already taking place. The hotel portion of this for our soldiers is open for long term. And then probably for me the most important thing is the dining facility is now open. And that dining facility is capable of feeding about 300 an hour. Just last week alone, we fed 3,600 people through that facility. So that has been an addition for us that's been absolutely critical to keep our mission going forward, is being able to feed multiple groups of people, multiple customer groups at one time on Camp Ripley. Next slide. Our partners, I couldn't do anything without my partners on Camp Ripley. I think you all know Minnesota DNR, that's where the conservation headquarters is for the state of Minnesota DNR. They're currently going through in-service right now, so you've probably seen a lot of conservation officers in and about and around Camp Ripley as they go through their training, and they're a tenant of the installation. The Minnesota State Patrol, again, I caution everybody, if you're driving any kind of fast between St. Cloud and Baxter, then I don't know why, because there's a lot of state patrolmen. All of the state patrolmen in the state of Minnesota are rotating through Camp Ripley for training right now, and the State Rookie Academy is being held right now. So it would be very logical if you see tons of them going up and down the roads right now. And when they're not busy, guess where they're at? Okay? We're training young, aggressive, next generation of our law enforcement providers. They're doing a great job at Camp Ripley, and they're a great host. And they live on Camp Ripley as well. Homeland Security Emergency Management is on Camp Ripley. They have a full-time presence on Camp Ripley now, and we just recently finished a full readiness exercise for one of the counties out in western Minnesota. They brought all of their city planners in and their staff from the county staff, and they went through a full emergency exercise and response exercise, and we look forward to doing a couple more of those this fall. And then obviously I already mentioned MnDOT. MnDOT has a presence on Camp Ripley, obviously with the Emergency Vehicle Operations Course. They're currently using that, as well as the State Patrol is on that course pretty consistently right now. Next slide. Probably one of the most exciting things we're doing right on Camp Ripley right now is our transitions to green technology and green energy. I think everybody probably saw last fall when we announced that we would be doing a 10 megawatt solar field in cooperation with Minnesota Power. That is ongoing, and we are going to start the ground prep for that this fall. So we're looking forward to that. I recently just opened, as I said, the Ed Center. That has a full geothermal field in it, a horizontal and vertical field, as well as my headquarters on Camp Ripley is currently in the process of receiving a geothermal field. So as we move towards these green technologies and reducing our footprint, we're looking at some other things we're working on right now. We are looking at a full microgrid, also a biomass facility where we can actually, with our timber and our land, be able to recycle a lot of the lumber as it gets to full age, and a lot of the slash that we have when we're doing our works and we're doing wood cuts with the Department of Natural Resources to be able to fuel that biomass plant, thus bringing down that footprint even farther. And then hooking these into microgrids and recirculating generators, and believe me, I'm way over my head right now. Okay, I'm a simple field artillery guy, but it works. It's the way to go, and we're trying to do our part to ensure that we're being green for the future. Next slide. Our environmental partnerships, I simply couldn't do my job without. You see these folks in and about Camp Ripley constantly in the community. Obviously, I mentioned the Department of Natural Resources. The Minnesota Board of Water and Soil Resources are very instrumental to what I do every day when we're out there working in our native environment. And obviously, I'm along 18.5 miles of the Mississippi River. So that water quality is as important to me as it is to you and to the users of Camp Ripley. So our programs and our environmental programs really empower us to do our mission. And that's the most important thing for me as a commander, is to ensure that we're doing things the right way. Minnesota State College is a university. If I didn't have those interns every year out there doing the yeoman's work out there, doing research on the installation, figuring out what we're doing in invasive species control, what we're doing in looking at how fire affects us and the good things that we can do with our flora and fauna, it would be a much more difficult job. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the Nature Conservancy, their goals and ours are not that far apart in many areas. And so when we can partner up with organizations that wouldn't necessarily partner with the military, you wouldn't think are synonymous with the military, like the Audubon Society, we truly are. I have ornithologists right now down in my Arden Hills site that are working on some bird work, and I'll show you here in a minute. We're working on a pretty neat project right now out at Camp Ripley. Next slide. Some of the surveys we're doing right now, and I'll just mention a couple. That golden eagle in the middle has been a pretty exciting one for us. Her name is Ripley. Now, Ripley, we didn't know that bald eagle, or the golden eagle, would winter this far south. Ripley's been at Camp Ripley now. This is her second winter. And so they got a hold of the bird, the Raptor Center, and the researchers from the Bird Raptor Center came down by Rochester, where they have 2 more golden eagles that have wintered down there already collared. They came up to Ripley this spring, and they captured this young female golden eagle, and they put a collar on her and put a backpack on her, and they're going to track her, and we currently are tracking her just like they do when they're doing research on her. Now, not only is she the one that's been the farthest north of any gold eagle that we've ever had in the state of Minnesota, she's currently north of the Arctic Circle, and she hasn't slowed down yet. Now, either she's mad at Camp Ripley for putting a backpack on her, or we suspect that she is very much a northern golden eagle, and she's going to nest, and she should be headed to her nesting range. The other 2 eagles that they're tracking have now nested, so we'll be watching her, and they're watching her very closely to see where she sets up and actually fledges. So this is very exciting, and then we'll see if she comes back again this next winter. The other one we're working on a lot right now is that one down in the lower right, and that's the long-eared bat. Yeah, a lot of you may have heard about the long-eared bat. We have the long-eared bats out at Camp Ripley. They are a recently identified threatened species, and so we are working with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the Department of Natural Resources to do some research and to figure out what that means to the state of Minnesota, because they do live in the timber, and they will have some effect, we believe, on the timber. And so if you see that little white patch in the back, no kidding, we're putting backpacks on these little guys. So they're putting little radio transmitters on them, and they're watching where these long-eared bats actually spend time in the wood structure on Camp Ripley, and then we're keeping a very close eye on what we can learn from that and working with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service on what that means. So that's another exciting one that we'll be able to report on as we go. Next slide. We can continue our community outreach. We love doing what we're doing. This fall, obviously, the Water Festival comes up. That's a great time. 600 sixth graders from the Morrison County area come out to Camp Ripley and learn why our water is so important and what we can do with our partners. We're doing a lot with ecotourism again now, and then our other events that we had throughout the year. Prescribed burning. Now, a lot of you, I'm sure, have seen that we've been doing a lot of that this spring. Very dry. And for me, the one thing that concerns me most as a commander on a daily basis is obviously a fire off the installation. We shoot a lot of live ammunition. We shoot a lot of tracer ammunition, which starts a lot of fires. And we use a lot of pyrotechnics that create a lot of fire. So we prescribe burn normally around 14,500 acres. This year we're going to burn just a little bit more than that. If you saw Camp Ripley today, this afternoon especially, you saw a lot of smoke coming from us on the very southern side of camp because we were actually burning some things we don't normally burn because of the fire danger. I have a very, very competent fire department. We have all of the work we do with the DNR, in cooperation with the DNR and their fire folks. And I'm very happy to say that we have got almost all of our significant fire hazard down, and we'll be able to train pretty clean this summer. So we're almost done. I'd say in the next couple of days we'll actually complete all of the emission enhancement burns and reduction burns that we need to do. Next slide. The ACUB. Doing very well right now. We just had our public meeting. Again, we still have a number of landowners very much interested, over 200 landowners. We just received, even in a down year, we just received $880,000 on federal money to be able to execute some more ACUB properties. And we're working with LaSarge Sam's Outdoor Heritage Council, as you very well know, during the legislative session on the state side. And I think that towards the end of the budget year, we'll see if there's any more federal money that is available for our further use of ACUB. Project's going very well right now. We're currently focused up in the Gull River area, up in the northeast corner of camp. There's some opportunities for us with some both fee acquisition with the DNR as well as wildlife management area buffering up there. So we're kind of working up in that northeast corner, but we're also going to take advantage of small parcels, depending on, it is all money driven based on what we bring in. So we continue to work with the landowners for conservation easements, and in some cases fee acquisition purchase. Next slide. Other than that, I thank you for your time, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Anybody have any questions?
I have a comment as usual. The economic impact that Camp Ripley has on our community, and when I talk community, I'm speaking Morrison County, is rather incredible. And as a local business person, I really appreciate it because when I have conversations with our corporate office, I tell them that we have soldiers in our store just about every day, every week. We just had a crew in there today that purchased about $1,000 worth of groceries from us, and so it has an incredible impact on us. And as you see the spending factor calculated in there, you look at the millions of dollars that are circulated throughout the community. So I thank you for that. Great job. Very important.
We appreciate it.
I just had one thing. I notice all your burnings during the spring when the migration is coming through, where most of your birds actually, they need insects and plants and stuff to survive so they can get up north. 60% of the birds in the United States travel up to Mississippi for migration. Why don't they do it in the fall versus spring? It probably won't have such an impact on birds coming through.
Well, I will certainly get you an answer to that. I don't have an answer for you tonight. And I hate to speculate again. I take the recommendations of my environmental team on when and how we do that. But I'll take that back to them and certainly answer that question for you.
I appreciate it.
You bet.
Thank you.
Anybody else? No? Thanks, Colonel.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your
Thanks.
time.
On the consent agenda, application for display of fireworks, pyrotechnic display, Inc., Dam Festival Organization, June 20th, 2015. Approved. Board of Review minutes, April 2015, received. Cable TV Review Board minutes, April 2015, received. Morrison County Attorney's Prosecution Report, March 2015 received. National Joint Powers Alliance Membership Agreement approved. Park, Rec, and Tree Board minutes, February 2015 received. What's the wish of the council on the consent agenda?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Gushik, second by Councilman Hanson. To approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Public hearings and lightings, public hearing resolution 2015-47, public improvement PIR, border and sidewalk improvements, considered. Greg?
Good evening. Tonight we've got the public hearing for the sidewalk improvements. It's improvement PIR. What we're looking at, we do have the affidavit of publication as well as the affidavit of mailing of public notices. The project location and such is basically the east side of town with one property on the west side of town that we had basically a notice in terms of a tripping hazard. And so we're looking at the east side with the exception of the downtown area removed because that was recently reviewed, and then one side on the west. So we look at basically 1/3 of town a year, and then the League of Minnesota Cities also recommends sidewalk inspection program to minimize how many tripping hazards we have throughout town. This is a staff-initiated project. Staff reviewed the project area and identified a number of areas that have potential tripping hazards based on current ADA requirements. One of the things to kind of keep in mind, it really only is a 1/4 inch lip that constitutes a tripping hazard. So it's not a whole lot that you're looking at in terms of when it constitutes a tripping hazard. And it's not, the look of the sidewalk could be broken up, but as long as it's together and not more than a 1/4 inch difference, then it doesn't constitute a tripping hazard. So looking at the project need, it's a little bit difficult to see, but you can see here this slab is up higher than the one adjacent to it. That one has been marked. And see the next one here, we've got a couple of areas where there's portions of it that have either sunk or actually came out. This one, I apologize, it's difficult to see, but right there's a crack along the sidewalk. That one is not considered a tripping hazard because it's flush with the adjacent panel. So even though it's cracked, it hasn't offset to constitute a tripping hazard. Same way with this one here. You can see the cracks along the sidewalk. I mean, they do have grass and such growing through it, but they haven't shifted in order to create that tripping hazard. And a 1/4 inch is the area in terms of when it constitutes a tripping hazard. So we are looking at roughly 10,022 square feet of sidewalk replacement is what we've identified in the feasibility report. The project does include site restoration in our amounts to the individual property owners that were sent out. So the construction costs, we're estimating it at $60,132 with a contingency of $6,013. Engineering, legal, and admin is at $5,000 for a total cost of $71,145. The assessments are roughly 93%, which equates to $65,878. Property owners that are abutting the individual sidewalks are responsible for 100% of the costs. And so the 7% that we're looking at basically includes the pedestrian ramps or the corners or alleyways that are bad that constitute a tripping hazard. So there's a couple of them around town that we notified that are our responsibility that we're going to be taking care of. That's why the difference between 93 and 7%. So our assessment rates, sidewalk replacement is 100% responsibility of the abutting property owners. We have a preliminary estimate at $7.50 a square foot, including restoration. I don't know if this is a preliminary estimate. We don't know exactly how much that's going to come in until the project is bid. So the price can come down, but it can't go up. So we did estimate a little bit high in terms of the unit price cost, but right now we're looking at $7.50 for restoration, removal, etc. And again, depending on bid prices, the rate has a possibility to be reduced. The assessments we're looking at are 4% over 5 years, and the homeowners can repair them themselves or hire a contractor. We do give them until May 31st to fix these sidewalk areas. They can do a number of different things. They can pull the panel out and replace it in kind, or they can actually grind down that edge so it's not more than a 1/4 inch of a tripping hazard. We do ask that they pull a permit. There's no cost to this permit. Basically what it does for us is it keeps a record of who's looking at replacing their own sidewalk, such that we can go around and make sure ahead of time before our contractor gets going that yes, indeed, this portion has been taken care of and we don't have to replace it. So property owners who are disabled and meet income guidelines are eligible for deferments, and 65 years and older would potentially qualify for deferments, and they can check with city staff here in regards to that. The next steps for this project, we do have the public hearing tonight. We'll be looking at design, advertisement for bids, as well as approval of plan and specs tonight as well. We look at potentially awarding the contract on June 1st. Construction will go June through July, and have our special assessment hearing in September, October timeframe. That's really the bulk of the project. Anybody have any questions on that, on the project itself?
Yes, if the individual homeowners do it themselves, say it has to be done by May 31st, but the rest will be completed by the end of August, why is the time discrepancy?
The discrepancy for that is because we're looking at bidding it June 1, and so we need to have a pretty good idea of how much quantity our contractor is going to be replacing or reconstructing. If we put the 10,000 square feet, and let's say half of the people decide to do it themselves, then our quantity is going to be off, and then potentially the contractor could come back with a change order that not as much work has been done. So we ask that it be done by the 31st so that we can have as good of a chance at getting the quantities as close to possible as we can.
Anyone from the public wish to speak? State name and address for the records.
Jeremiah Reed, 715 3rd Street Southeast. Never been to one of these before, so I don't know how to address anybody. So, my question is on this cost. You got $450 for total cost. Talk to neighbors, both north of me and south of me. Both of them got the same quote, same price. Their lots are twice the size of mine. So why am I paying the same when I've only got a 40-foot wide lot? And my section for in my property limits has no discrepancies on it. Past my property line, but one of the blocks on the other side of the property line has a raise, so we got marked. But everything inside of my property line limits has no mark.
If I can answer that, what we looked at is basically where the raised and tripping hazards are, and we marked them with, I believe it was orange paint. Yep. The $450 is to replace one of those panels. And so that's why yourself, even though it's a 40-foot wide lot, there's probably only one in there that's an issue. And if your neighbor, even though he may have a 100 or 150-foot wide lot, if he only has the one panel to be replaced, it's still the same square footage as yourself. So that's where the 450 comes into play.
Okay, then I gotta ask for you guys to come back through and look at it again.
Okay.
And the reason why is because I have no pink markings inside of my property limits.
And we can do that.
Okay. So I know the ones to the north have already grown theirs down. The one to the south, she doesn't know what she's gonna do. She's saying, Mom, I told her to help her out, pour some concrete in there, just smooth it out. So, but I don't see how you can justify the cost of doing the whole block when there's only 3 stripes on the whole block.
Well, and we're not. I mean, we're not doing the whole block. We're only doing those panels that constitute tripping hazards.
Yeah.
So those people that were notified, ideally have a raised panel or something, or an area that's out of the sidewalk that would constitute a tripping hazard. Those are the only ones that we'd be doing. We wouldn't be doing the entire block.
Okay. And these people know that even though they didn't show up to this or aren't here for this, that no matter what the council votes, they can still get it repaired and not have to worry about it?
Like yourself, we sent letters out to them, and we didn't include that May 31st date in that.
Yeah, I see that in there,
Yeah.
but with the way that it words out on the actual notice for the public hearing, it looks more like if the city council votes yes, then no matter what, you're just out of luck.
No, they have until the 31st to do it themselves. Yeah.
All right, I don't know, the cost, I mean, you get a $10 bag of cement versus the cost you guys will spend. I'm sure there's roads that could use it better than sidewalks.
There is, but there's also, I mean, we have to look at the walkability of the sidewalks and such.
Sure. Okay, that's all I got.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak? Third and final call, anyone else wish to speak? No, close the public hearing at 8:12. What's the wish of the council?
Make a motion to approve resolution 2015-47.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Got a motion by Councilman Gushek, second by Councilman Waldegren. For resolution 2015-47. Discussion?
How long have the notices been out?
I don't have that with me.
Maybe a week?
Yeah, I was gonna say about a week and a half.
Yeah, I was thinking that time frame was kind of short, especially this time of the year. Some people have to go out and hire someone to do it. They might have to wait a little while.
And I noticed there's been a number of them that have already done the work around town. I know we've got a couple of permits here, but then there's some of them obviously that haven't pulled a permit or anything like that yet, but that have been completed. So the work is already starting to be completed. They're already starting to hire individuals to do it themselves.
So if they pull a permit, if they don't get it finished by May 31st, but they pull a permit saying that they're going to have it done, but they can't because of a construction, hiring or whatever, it's still okay? I mean, they're not gonna be charged the $450 or whatever it is that they can still do themselves, even if it goes past that,
At that point, it depends on, who gets there first, our contractor or their contractor. We're looking at letting bids on June 1st. Generally speaking, it takes about 2 weeks to get the contracts in place. And so I would say by May 31st is the guarantee that you can do it yourself. At that point, it's going to be, if you don't have it done, we don't know for sure that you're going to do it or not. So we ask that you have it done by May 31st so there's no confusion on our part.
So if someone though is saying, I'm gonna do it, but I can't get a contractor until June 15th or whatever, they let the city know that?
I would say within reason, yes. If they're gonna tell us they can't get it done until October, that's probably not realistic, just because we know it's a tripping hazard, and as long as we let it sit there, it's been more of a liability for us. So within reason, I would say yes, and if they can demonstrate that the contractors are that backlogged, I don't suspect that they are right now at this point.
Besides them walking on their own sidewalk, was there any other kind of notice that they needed to address this prior to then approximately a week ago?
We started looking at the sidewalks last fall, and that's where we marked them up. If there's a tripping hazard, we would paint them hot pink. So other than that, this was the first notice of them at that point in time. It does say in our ordinance that the residents are responsible for the sidewalks. So if you shovel your snow or anything like that, chances are it's going to hit with a shovel or a snow blower, and you kind of recognize that it's a tripping hazard at that point. But this kind of gets the ball rolling, and yes, it is a tripping hazard we need to take care of.
I'm just concerned about the amount of time they have from notification to get it accomplished here.
It's about a month's time.
Since they have an option of grinding it, is whoever we're gonna hire possibly gonna grind some of it off as well for a lower cost for people?
Potentially. Right now, what we have in there is full replacement. If you'd like, we can add that as an option for the contractor to do.
I guess I don't know why we wouldn't. They could spend less money and have the sidewalk not be a tripping hazard.
We can,
And then do it that way.
Well, what usually causes the sidewalk to shift? Is it either frost or root or something underneath?
Frost, root, yeah,
So you grind it this year, next year it's back the same way, because whatever's causing it to move
potentially.
potentially is gonna keep it moving.
Even if you put a new slab of cement in there, roots are gonna push it out. You know, that isn't a cure-all. If you have a root problem, you might have to deal with that too.
Well, that brings up another question then. If it's a tree root and it's on the boulevard, whose tree is it?
Technically, it's a city tree.
Okay? And so it heaves up the sidewalk. Then what?
Well, you get that, you get the opposite argument when we try to take down trees.
I believe that.
It's still the property owner's
If
responsibility.
the property owner is gonna take care of the sidewalk from an oak tree that's 3 feet around, we know a root the size of your leg is pushing that up. Will steps be taken to fix the city's trees so the homeowner doesn't have to do the same thing with the sidewalk?
We have
In
always,
2 years.
we have always had the discussion with them that they want to keep the trees as opposed to, hey, let's take this one down. I haven't had a phone call that said, can you take the tree down on my boulevard?
Any other discussion? Not, resolution, call a roll, please.
Boyan,
Yes.
Turcott,
Yes?
Liljegren,
Yes.
Zilka,
Yes.
Hansler,
Yes.
Hanson,
No.
Bushik,
No.
Knopfler.
Yes.
Carries.
Lettings, resolution 2015-50, awards bids, public improvement 373.
Excuse me, that project was staff initiated, correct?
Correct.
Needs a 7/8 vote, it fails.
So we're liable for tripping on sidewalks.
Then we,
Thought it was a homeowner's sidewalk.
No. City sidewalks. Homeowner's responsibility.
Three seventy-three?
If somebody wants to reconsider.
I think I'm gonna reconsider on that one. I'm kind of going both ways on it, but if, you know, a tripping hazard, we're liable. I'm not too happy with the way that homeowners are pushed into this so quick and everything, and it would be nice if we gave them a little more time. But I'll reconsider and I'll vote the other way in order to get the ordinance through and ordinance, I mean, get this through so we can take care of this.
That's my issue as well. And I'll change my vote too, but Mr. Kimmen, we need to let people know they have to do something with more time on this.
I'm open to,
We can move
How
them.
long- yeah, how long
We
do
can
you
add
want?
them on to it if we want to, I guess.
if you saw orange paint on your sidewalk, don't you think something's up?
Well, somebody had to be there to mark it. Could they hang something on the door? I mean, we could go, you know, shoulda, coulda, woulda.
Just like the gentleman that came and spoke today, he wasn't even aware he was one of these people because the marking wasn't in front of his place. But now he's drawn into a decision, you know. I think a little more time would have been nice, personally.
What's the steps? I'm for it if we can give them a little bit more time to do it. I know somebody that did a face plant,
so
so.
we're supposed to hold bid day, and that's easy enough to do.
And that would give them 2 months to get it fixed. I'm kind of concerned too, the point brought up too with the tree root. You know, if you got, when they replace that, are they gonna check to see if it's a tree root? Are they gonna grind the root out or whatever, so to prevent it from happening again? Because conceivably, in another couple of years or another year, the tree pushes it up and it's like, oh, well, I gotta replace this again. I mean, it's $450 a year or whatever to do it. I mean, you know.
We'll have to look at it on a case-by-case basis. I mean, if it needs a tree root, that needs to be, and the tree needs to come out, we'll talk to the property owner and see if they're okay with that tree coming out. But I'll be honest, I've never had a phone call from the property owner that says, I want a tree in the boulevard taken out. They've
I've
always,
had a lot of calls when we've taken them off.
we've had a lot of calls when we've taken them out and a lot of calls when we've,
Yes,
trimmed
Lori?
branches
Or trimmed them.
that we shouldn't have trimmed them. So we'll look at it and we'll talk to the property owner, but
All
I've never
right,
had.
does one of us need to make a motion to amend the resolution with a different date?
Consider.
Well, for right now, you just.
I'll make a motion to reconsider.
I'll second it.
Anybody have any questions?
So the date's gonna be changed in the resolution then?
Or we'll have to vote on the
That's what
resolution, or we just gonna reconsider?
Reconsideration.
So we got a first and a second.
You should vote on this first, and then you can have that discussion.
All in favor on the reconsider? Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. Motion carries. Now up for reconsider or discussion? Supposed to have a motion first. We're gonna use the same resolution number, or we got a different resolution number?
You use the same, I believe.
Okay. Switch to council on resolution 2015-47.
Can I make a motion that we, to present this, but move the dates back by 1 month so people have an additional month to repair it themselves?
Second.
Got a motion by Alderman Hurkacz, second by Councilman Hanson, to approve resolution 2015-47 with the bid date closing July 1st?
It was June 1st before.
Right,
We go to July 1st.
for July 1st, give homeowners time to repair 2 months on their own.
Yep.
Do we have to have a new public hearing?
I don't believe so, since you're doing it at this
Yeah, same
meeting.
Okay.
One clarification relative to liability. Someone slips and falls on a public sidewalk, does the homeowner pay the bill or the city?
The homeowner does. Our ordinance says that the homeowners are responsible for the sidewalk. So unless the city is negligent, then the insurance has always said it becomes the homeowner's responsibility. If we know that there are tripping hazards and we don't ensure that those are taken care of, then we can be held negligent because we are aware of the problem. But if we're not aware of the problem and we're not negligent, then it's the homeowner.
So in essence, then it is to the advantage of the homeowner to have these sidewalks fixed.
Exactly.
Any other discussion? Resolution, call a roll, please.
Hurkacz,
Yes.
Liljegren,
Yes.
Zilka,
Yes.
Hamfler,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Gushik,
Yes.
Knopfler,
Yes.
Boyum,
Yes.
carries.
Long way around that one.
Resolution, I'll find out a way to do that more efficiently next time. I'm new.
20, resolution 2015-50, award bids, public improvement. Greg?
We're looking at public improvement 373. We opened bids for our street project. We received 4 bids this morning for it. The low bid is from Larson Excavating out of Holdingford in the amount of $795,273.05. Tonight we are recommending award to Larson Excavating so we can get started on the construction project.
What is the wish of the council?
I make a motion to go with Larson Excavating to these projects. Low bid.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Gushik, second by Councilman Hanson. Approval of resolution 2015-50. Award to Larson Excavating. Any discussion? Hearing none, resolution, call a roll, please.
Liljegren,
Yes.
Zilka,
Yes.
Hamfler,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Gushik,
Yes.
Knopfler,
Yes.
Boyum,
Yes.
Hurkacz,
Yes.
carries.
Preventive maintenance bids. Award, Greg?
Yeah, we received bids for the preventive maintenance project from a number of contractors. I do have the bid form on the, or the tab, or the bid tab on the back. The low bid is from Tri-City Paving in the amount of $243,879.10. The engineer's estimate was $329,620.50. So tonight, we are looking looking at awarding the contract to Tri-City Paving in the amount of $243,879.10. This allows our roads that are in good condition to stay in good condition, mainly on the west side of town where the utilities are relatively new. We've been put in the 60s and 70s. With respect to the other utilities in town, they're newer than that. So we're looking at keeping those pavements in as good a shape as we can.
Where's the wish of the council?
I make a motion that we approve or award the bid to Tri-City Paving for the preventative maintenance.
I'll second.
Got a motion by Alderman Herbeck, seconded by Councilman Knopfler, to approve the preventive maintenance bid to Tri-City for $243,879.10. Any discussion? No resolution on this one? Just all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Abandoned well sealing. Greg?
We invited 3 contractors to provide us quotes for well sealing of our abandoned wells. We received a $10,000 grant from the Department of Health to continue with our efforts. As part of our wellhead protection, this is an item that qualifies for their grant funds. And so we did receive that $10,000 grant, and so we're looking at sealing 2 of our wells that we have out in our parking lot. The low bid came in from Northland Drilling, and they're actually going to be looking at starting the work tomorrow. It is in the amount of $3,358.00. So I would recommend tonight we award the contract to Northland Drilling.
What's the wish of the council?
I'll make a motion for it to Northland well done.
Second?
Got a motion by Councilman Lodgren, second by Alderman Herbeck, to approve Northland Drilling. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Ordinance 74, 6 areas, amend city chapter code, section 10.41, property maintenance code. This was introduced last meeting. I have a motion for discussion.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
A motion by Councilman Bushek, second by Councilman Hanson. Ordinance number 74. Discussion.
Just before it gets to be the official wording on the third page under extermination, I think it's supposed to say rats instead of rates. And the same thing under infestation on the next page.
Sometimes it's good to exterminate rates.
Spell check, don't catch them.
Are we gonna get some kind of frequent flyer credit from Sterling Codifiers here with all this we've been doing lately?
Mr. President, I have a question, and I don't know if for Dan or Greg or Lori or who, but, you know, I'm looking at page under exterior structure, page 10. Under K, number 2, peeling, flaking, and chip paint shall be eliminated and surfaces repainted. Is this, do you know, is this complaint driven, or is this done by the inspectors? I just, you know, I've had people ask me, you know, if there's a little bit of peeling paint on the side of the house, are we, you know, are we really looking to police every little paint chip, the way it's written?
If I can, Mr. Chairman and members, we're not gonna be walking around every house looking for a little bit of paint peeling. I think a lot of us would probably be guilty of that,
Right.
spot or the other. But on the other hand, I don't know that it would be just complaint driven either. I think if we have properties that you can see from a pretty easy windshield survey from the street that there's major problems in that property, I mean, those are the types of areas that we're gonna be looking at. You know, walking around and taking a magnifying glass to every house, I don't see that happening at all.
Well, The question I got is, you know, okay, some of your houses, you got 5 feet between them, so you know, your neighbor's looking out the window and your paint's peeling around your window, he calls and complains your paint is peeling. Are we gonna be required to go out and enforce it, because neighbors complaining you got paint peeling around the windows, yeah?
If we have a complaint, I think we're gonna go take a look at it, sure.
And I believe it was told us that the judgment of the, you know, what, you know, how bad it is.
Sure, the
Like I
code
said,
official's gonna have some
That's, right,
discretion.
he's got some
here.
latitude.
And we're not looking to make people re-side and re-put in the window. And this isn't an issue to try to put a lot of pressure on the public. This is an effort to try to improve the appearance of your community, so, and make housing more livable, so, you know, things aren't rotting out.
So it's more of a concern about maintenance to prevent the house from turning into disrepair versus aesthetics.
Exactly.
I got one question here too. On page 6, when it talks about the implementation of authority, it says the code official shall have authority as necessary in interest of public health, safety, and general welfare to interpret and implement the provisions of this code. I have a little problem with the word to interpret, because that's kind of a general subjective type of thing, because what you might interpret one way, I might interpret it a different way. And if we have one code inspector that comes in, interprets this code from his perspective, and has things changed or whatever, and then by some reason we get a different code inspector, and that person interprets differently, you know, we're gonna have trouble with, well, this code inspector said this, and then this code inspector said that. You know, I just kind of question that to interpret. It's number 2 under section F, under duties and powers of the code official, implementation authority.
Yeah, this is difficult because like we were talking about with the paint, we want to avoid discretion, but in some instances you just can't avoid it, like the mayor was talking about. If a code official looks and there's chipping paint, are we gonna go and enforce it? Well, if it's one little area, probably not. If it's a whole panel of a house, probably yes. So there needs to be some flexibility for that code official to use some common sense within the scope of the law. When you talk about interpretation and how you read things, I mean, the default ruling is you look at the 4 corners, you look at the plain meaning. So I think that's kind of what they're getting at, is you look at the plain meaning of the verbiage, but I think the interpretation part is going more towards discretion, even though, like I said, we want to try and minimize that to the greatest extent possible. But here, they're gonna have to make a judgment call on some of these things. You know, the neighbor's complaining because they're anal about their household, and now they have one neighbor with one chip off and they want that fixed. The code official might go there and say, no, this is not what we're dealing with, it's not bad enough. So when I read it, that's how that, you know, and there again, when I read it, that's
How you interpret it.
could be read differently, but I think no matter how many times we change this, you're always going to have something in there where people can read it differently. I think this is probably as close as what we can get to give our code official the flexibility that currently he needs, he or she in the future may need, to enforce this with some common sense so that we don't have hypervigilance, but we also have people cleaning up their properties when it's becoming a blight issue. So,
We've had these discussions before, you know, lights.
right,
And then it comes to like somebody's house isn't quite up to par as far as the paint. Sometimes the person, the reason it's there is they can't afford it. So all of a sudden we're gonna lay something on them, which costs a lot of money. Costs a lot of money to scrape a house and fix up any of the wood that's bad, get it all restored. So, kind of a fine line of how are we gonna treat people here? You know?
it's hard, it's hard.
It's very hard. I know we have paint-a-thons and maybe it's a good idea when you get some of these cases, refer them. It's a good referral place to take them, so if people can't afford to fix it, at least they have that option to, maybe the paint-a-thon group will come and take care of it for them.
And remember, there's an appeal process built into this. So if a code official makes a ludicrous interpretation from the perspective of the property owner has a mechanism to appeal that, and they follow the procedure within. If the building inspector's interpretation is affirmed, then they have to deal with that. If it's overruled or deemed inappropriate, then the property owner has prevailed. So there is a safety mechanism built in for that, which hopefully allays concerns of property owners.
That appeal process is on page 21, item 2 near the bottom of the sheet.
Thank you.
Any other discussion or questions? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Ordinance.
Ordinance, call the roll, please.
Zilka,
Yes.
Antler,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Gushik,
Yes.
Knopfler,
Yes.
Boyum,
Yes.
Hurkak,
Yes.
Liljegren.
Yes.
Passes. Ordinance 74A, summary publication. So wish of the council.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Councilman Hanson, second by Councilman Knopfler. Ordinance number 74A, summary division for favor. Any discussion?
That's just a shortened version to save money in the publication, correct?
Ordinance, call roll.
Antler,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Gushik,
Yes.
Knopfler,
Yes.
Boyum,
Yes.
Hurkak,
Yes.
Liljegren,
Yes.
Zilka.
Yes.
Carries.
Ordinance number 75, 6 series, amend City Chapter Code 10, Section 10.40, amend rental housing maintenance code, adopt. What's the wish of the council? Get a motion for discussion, please.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Got a motion by Councilman Gushik, second by Councilman Knopfler. Ordinance number 75, discussion.
No, just a comment. I know we need to have this stuff, but combined and somebody worked really hard on this stuff too. I can't imagine how much time that took, but got about 45 pages of property rights infringements. Defining toilets and bathrooms. That's all I got.
Any other discussion? Ordinance, call roll.
Hanson,
Yes.
Gushik,
Yes.
Knopfler,
Yes.
Boyum,
Yes.
Hurkak,
Yes.
Liljegren,
Yes.
Zilka,
Yes.
Antler.
Yes.
Carries.
Ordinance number 75A.
I'll make a motion to approve. Whatever it is.
Second.
Got a motion by Alderman Hurkak, second by Councilman Hanson, approve ordinance 75A, summary publication of ordinance 75. Any discussion?
What happens if we vote this down?
Did we publish the 75, 45, 75 page one?
Just what you stated.
The record will be happy. Any other discussion? Ordinance, call the roll, please.
Gushik,
Yes.
Knopfler,
Yes.
Boyum,
Yes.
Hurkak,
Yes.
Liljegren,
Yes.
Zilka,
Yes.
Antler,
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Carries.
Resolution 2015-48, accept feasibility report and call for public hearing to Rosa Drive, Mississippi Boulevard, West End. Reconsider. Councilman Knopfler?
Yes, I'd like to bring this back up for reconsideration. At our meeting our last meeting, due to some misunderstanding on my part with all the things that were going on, I had originally intended to vote yes on this resolution. Unfortunately, the word no came out of the mouth. What I did in asking you to reconsider this again, I went and I revisited the people that petitioned for the West End. And I revisited with them, and I also was in contact with Bruce Smith, who owns a considerable amount of property on the south side. I have an email response from him here. And the consensus of the people, except for two that didn't get back to me, was that they were in favor of doing the West End as long as the East End was being done. They would like to have it done both at the same time and have a public hearing at the same time to address both ends of the road. So I'm asking the council if we can revisit that and re-vote on it.
So I have a motion, do I have a second? Second. A motion by Councilman Knappel, second by Councilman Hanson. Resolution 2015-48, accept the feasibility report and call for public hearing.
I think the motion that, correctly would be to reconsider our previous action, and then you're gonna make another motion to adopt, if that's the motion you care to make.
So in other words, we wouldn't have to have another public hearing?
No, you do have to have another public.
Okay.
We haven't had one on the East End yet. That was scheduled for May, and we'd have to in order to have them both at the same time, instead of two, we move the east side one to June 1st, so that they both be at the same time.
Can we put this through as one project?
Because there's two petitions, you can't. Otherwise, then it's a staff-initiated project at that point.
So let's run it as a staff-initiated project.
That's something, so we can.
Are we gonna save anything? Other than risking a second contractor and a second bid?
You're gonna bid them
You're gonna bid them
together.
together. Okay. That's the whole reason to have all these steps at the same time, so that you bid them together. It's just a matter of how we move them along.
The east chunk is already a go.
We have a public hearing scheduled for May 18th. One of the items down here is to rescind that and extend and reschedule that for June 1st.
I thought we already voted for that.
We voted for the public hearing.
Yes.
We approved, that's what we're voting on here, to reconsider to have the public hearing.
For the west end as well.
That's that first.
So we got a motion to reconsider and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
No.
Okay, 7-1.
I'm sorry, who voted no?
Mr. Gwen.
Okay. Thank you.
So now, resolution 2015-48, accept feasibility report and call for public hearing, Roger Drive, Mississippi Boulevard, West End. Do I have a motion to approve?
I make that motion.
Motion by Councilman Knappel. Do I have a second?
Second?
Second by Mayor Zilka. Resolution 2015-48. Discussion?
Yeah, let's do it right this time. If I was the general public and I was watching this, it looked kind of like a circus. And it's almost like we're trying to force this thing through, which isn't the case. It's just because of one petition for half of it, and then there was another petition. And we're looking at it as, through the whole thing, it's more cost efficient and less of a hassle to the people who live down there. And as spoken, it was good. Jerry, you went out and spoke to the people, and they're pretty much in favor. If we're gonna do the East End, we might as well do the whole thing. So, just to kind of inform the public in that, that's what we're doing. We're trying to get this nailed down. There has been a little bit of confusion through this whole process, but let's do it right this time.
I think the biggest confusion was also having the plat approval at the same time.
Too many things going on at one time.
Well, I can echo that. Mr. President, if I may, it's the order they came before us. And the western part was first.
Right.
And I know, as Mr. Knopfler did, I talked to those residents, and it was, if the first part goes in, as long as you're doing it, then we want the second part. To me, that makes sense. It's just the way the vote came, it didn't work out.
Correct.
I'm going to abstain since I have abutting property.
Any other discussion? Resolution, call a roll, please.
Knopfler,
Yes.
Boyum,
No.
Hurkak,
Abstain?
Liljegren,
Yes.
Zilka,
Yes.
Antler,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Gushik.
Yes.
Carries.
Resolution 2015-52, rescind resolution 2015-44, and accept feasibility report and call for public hearing to Royster Drive, East End. And
I'll make that motion.
Basically, this is to rescind that previous motion and then to reschedule it for June 1st. That's what this is doing here.
so does somebody have to make a motion that was in favor?
No,
No. Anybody can? Yes.
everybody can.
Okay. Motion by Councilman Bishop, do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have a second by Councilman Hanson? Rescind resolution 2015-44. Any discussion? Resolution, call a roll.
Boyum,
No.
Hurkak,
Yes.
Liljegren,
Yes.
Zilka,
Yes.
Antler,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Gushik,
Yes.
Knopfler.
Yes.
Carries.
Fundraising sponsorship, Little Falls Sister City, consider. Susie?
I didn't realize I was going to get an opportunity to address you folks, but as we visited at the work session last time, the Little Falls Sister City asks that the council consider two events coming up. I believe this is in the letter. One is the August 11th opening welcome breakfast. We would invite the entire council to come and ask if Mayor Zilka would say a few words on behalf of the city. That is when the two cities formally welcome each other. And then the second event is we're asking the council to consider putting on a free public concert on Friday, August 14th, down in Le Bourget Park to celebrate the summer and show our the French delegation how we in Minnesota celebrate our wonderful weather. And so that's, there is in policy 15 sets aside funds from the arts and crafts fair fees that the city collects to put on events for the sister city, and we would ask that a total of $3,000 be used for that concert. Money to be paid to Great River Arts, who would be presenting the concert on behalf of the city. Are there any questions?
So the funds would be for the concert,
Yes, sir.
not for the breakfast.
No, not for the breakfast.
Okay.
No, the first event is just an invitation to
Right.
you all. You will all get written,
Correct.
but calendars do fill up, so we would just like you all to know that we warmly invite you.
I just don't want to be a public impression that there was free breakfast for the city of Little Falls.
Oh, no. And sorry, the breakfast probably won't cost that much.
So will there be publicity for this free concert throughout
Yes,
the
great.
city?
I had visited with Jill Moore at Great River Arts, and they will handle the publicity for it too. And we'll probably be working with the CBB as well to help get the word out. So the entire community is invited.
Have you got any further questions?
Yeah, Lori, the funds that were set aside came from, as we're well aware of, past Chamber of Commerce dealings with
The arts and crafts and antiques and collectibles.
And that money has been set aside for, in the past, it was for this Labor Day get-together. So until them funds are dispersed in other ways and that account's closed, we would be well within the realm of giving some of this to the Greater River Arts in order to put on a fall concert here.
Right, because it is allowed by statute to
Okay.
have
Just
concerts,
to make everything clear.
and the funds are there.
Okay.
Do I have a motion for approval?
Second.
Got a motion by Mayor Zilka, second by Councilman Bishop. For fundraising sponsorship. Any further discussion? Not all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Welcome. Bench removal request. Sharon Hogan, is there? Dan?
Yeah, you have the memo in front of you. The person that put a bench down, both parents have passed away. The person would like the bench back in remembrance. I think they're going to put it in a garden or some function at their home. So that's the request.
Sharon, did you have anything to add, or?
I just would appreciate,
What's the wish of the council?
Make a motion to give Sharon the bench.
I'll second.
Got a motion by Councilman Gushik, second by Councilman Knappel. Approve the request. Any discussion? Yes.
Will the bench be replaced?
I will see if we have one. I do have pictures of the bench, so there will be a spot there open so people can put a bench there if we need to. I don't know if we have an extra one sitting around to put in there, immediately. But the concern with any sort of anchor sticking up isn't there, because I was looking at how it was anchored, and the bolts are actually going down into it as opposed to being anchored in the bottom and going up through the bench itself. So we shouldn't have any tripping hazards on it, and we will have that space available if anybody else would like to have a bench in that location.
Well, here's my question. Do we need to make a change in the motion? I'm just looking at the way it's worded. And she has on here, remove and take the bench at her cost for remembrance. And if you remember in the planning session, I think we should be able to do one better than that. I think it's best that city staff removes the bench and communicate if she comes and picks it up, or it's not too far away. Once it's
Right.
unbolted in the back of a truck, drop it off at her house.
Yeah, we can definitely do that.
and that would be fine, it's just I thought I'd save the city time.
I'm just, if you show up over there with a crescent wrench, you might be there all day trying to get the bench off.
Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you very much. Do I just call you then?
Yes.
Sorry, I don't know your name.
Right.
Greg, okay.
Yes, that's great.
Okay.
Amend policy 28, parks, adopt a park and private use of parks, tobacco use, consider. Greg?
This evening, I invited Michelle Fauges from Morrison County Public Health, if she would like to speak in regards to the policy here. I did include this in your packet in terms of what we'll be changing. We already currently have a policy for parks, and so if you'll notice in the one that you have in your packet, it has underlined areas. Those are what was added to our current parks policy, basically to reflect what the tobacco-free portion of it indicates. So.
Council President, members, Mayor. Patrick here for you.